Today we'll be talking about liver. Liver is a solid, large organ which is situated in the upper quadrant of abdominal cavity. This area, the location of the liver, upper part. This weighs around 1600 grams in males and in females around 1300 grams. Specific location of the liver, it is located whole of right hypochondrium. This area is hypochondrium, right hypochondrium, epigastrium, and it extends into left hypochondrium. Liver also can extend into this area, lumbar area, right lumbar area. And it is the largest gland of the body. Let's see the external features of the liver. This is an anterior view of the liver. This is an inverted view of the liver where we can see the posterior and inferior surface of the liver. Again, this is a view where we can see posterior surface and inferior surface of the liver. And this area is the posterior abdominal wall after removing the liver. It is wedge-shaped structure. There are 5 surfaces for it. Anterior surface, posterior surface that is behind, that looks like this, posterior surface, inferior surface below that, right surface. This is the right surface. So there are 5 surfaces: anterior surface, posterior surface, inferior surface, superior surface. Superior surface is facing the diaphragm. Superior surface and the right surface. We can see that most of the surfaces are continuous with each other. A border, a single border here, that is called inferior border. Inferior border can be seen, which is marked by interlobar notch. Interlobar notch is a notch, a depression in the inferior border, which is separating the 2 lobes. Liver has got 2 lobes, right and left lobes. In between that, there is a notch, which is seen on the inferior border. So this is called interlobar notch, or this is also called notch for ligamentum teres. There is a ligament here in this area that is called ligamentum teres. So this can be called as notch for ligamentum teres. And there's a cystic notch which can be seen in this area, that is for the fundus of gallbladder, part of the gallbladder that is extending beyond the inferior border, and the inferior border has a notch on that area, that is cystic notch. As I mentioned before, there are 2 lobes, right and left lobe. Anterior view and a posterior view can be seen here. It is divided into right and left lobe by attachment of falciform ligament anteriorly. So this is a ligament here which is connecting the liver to the anterior abdominal wall, that is falciform ligament. So falciform ligament is connected anteriorly and even it extends to the superior aspect of the liver. And by the fissure of ligamentum teres inferiorly. So the falciform ligament divides anteriorly and superiorly the liver into right and left lobe, whereas inferiorly it is divided into 2 lobes by attachment of ligamentum teres, that is located here. I just mentioned that on the anterior surface, ligamentum teres. And fissure for ligamentum venosum posteriorly. On the posterior aspect, this is the fissure for ligamentum venosum. There's a fissure that can be seen. Fissure means a space or a discontinuity that can be seen there. That is for the ligament, and that ligament is called ligamentum venosum. So we are seeing multiple ligaments which are attached to the liver. So posteriorly there is ligamentum venosum, inferiorly ligamentum teres, and the right lobe is much larger than the left lobe. Obviously, we can see that, and presents a caudate and quadrate lobe. Right lobe, in turn, the posterior aspect of it has got a lobe that's called caudate lobe. Inferiorly, there is another lobe that is called quadrate lobe. So the liver has got right and left lobe. The right lobe itself has got two projections or two lobes within it. They are called caudate lobe and quadrate lobe. This area is the caudate lobe. This is a posterior view of liver. Caudate lobe is located on the posterior surface of the liver. It's bounded right side by the groove for inferior vena cava. So this blue color structure is inferior vena cava. If you remove the inferior vena cava, you can see a groove, a depression there. That is for the inferior vena cava. So on the right side, it is bounded by the groove for inferior vena cava. On the left side by ligamentum, fissure for the ligamentum venosum. This is the fissure for the ligamentum venosum. And inferiorly by porta hepatis. On the lower aspect, this is an area called porta hepatis. Porta hepatis was mentioned before as well. This is a gateway, or you can see the structures which are entering and leaving the liver in the porta hepatis. So we were seeing the different areas which are nearby the caudate lobe, how the caudate lobe is bounded. Caudate lobe can be seen here in this real liver. Below and to the right, just behind the porta hepatis, it is connected to the right lobe of the liver by caudate process. So the caudate lobe below, towards the right, it is connected to the right lobe through a process called caudate process. Caudate process is this one. Here it is very evident. Again, the caudate lobe can be seen, posterior view, caudate lobe. Caudate lobe connected to the right lobe through caudate process. But below and to the left, it presents a small rounded elevation called papillary process. So there are two processes of caudate lobe. A caudate process that is going to the right side or going to the right lobe, whereas another small process which is seen onto the left side, and that is papillary process. In some liver, we can see the papillary process enlarged. It is not abnormal, but normally we can see this phenomenon. The next lobe is quadrate lobe. It is situated on the inferior surface of the liver. So if you put a line here in this area through the porta hepatis, that line, that imaginary line, will divide the liver surfaces into posterior surface, which is above that, inferior surface, which is below it. This is because of the position of anatomical position of the liver. This you can understand only when you take the liver on hand. So the location of quadrate lobe is on the inferior surface. Now, what are the boundaries of quadrate lobe? Anteriorly, so anteriorly it is bounded by inferior border. Anteriorly, when I say anteriorly, you may have a little confusion here again. That's because of the position of the liver. When you look at the position of the liver, this comes anteriorly. Posteriorly by the porta hepatis. Posteriorly by the porta hepatis. On the right side by the fossa for the gallbladder. So if you remove the gallbladder from here, you may get a fossa there, and that is the fossa for the gallbladder. And on the left side by fissure for ligamentum teres. So this is a fissure for ligamentum teres. So the boundaries, what are the areas where it is, or what are the nearby structures? Anteriorly by the inferior border, posteriorly by the porta hepatis, to the right, fossa for the gallbladder, to the left, fossa for or the fissure for ligamentum teres. What is porta hepatis? This area is a porta hepatis. It's a posterior view. Anteriorly, this is an anterior view, but you can see here the liver has been pulled upwards to show the inferior surface first, the inferior surface, and posterior surface you cannot see here very well, but you can see the inferior surface. And this area is a porta hepatis where the structures are entering into the liver and leaving the liver. Similarly, in this view, a close view, it's a magnified view of this area. You can see that the porta hepatis here, structures are entering and leaving the liver through this area. It is very near to the gallbladder. So it is situated on the inferior surface of the right lobe. So it is on the right lobe. So some structures like portal vein, hepatic artery, hepatic plexus of nerves enter through the porta hepatis. So there are some structures which are going to enter into the liver. Portal vein. This vein, a large vein here, that's called portal vein. Blue color structure, posteriorly seen. Hepatic artery can be seen here. This one. So hepatic artery. Hepatic plexus of nerves, which are a group of nerves. They are entering into the liver. At the same time, right and left hepatic ducts. So this green colored structure here are the hepatic ducts, right and left hepatic ducts. They are leaving the liver. So when I say leaving the liver, entering the liver, I mean to say that whatever structures, whatever substance is there within this vessels, they move into the liver. If it is moving into the liver, we say that, okay, this is going into the liver. For example, the hepatic artery, the blood is going into the liver. The flow is towards the liver. So we say it as the structure is entering into the liver. At the same time, when we say hepatic ducts, the bile that is produced by the liver, that after production that goes downwards. That is why we say that it is leaving. The leaving hepatic ducts are leaving the liver. Also some lymphatics which are leaving the liver. Now the relation within the porta hepatis from behind forwards. So there's a particular and there's a methodical relation that is seen from posterior to anterior, behind forwards. They are portal vein, most behind. Then you have hepatic artery. Then most anteriorly hepatic ducts. So this is a relation of porta hepatis. So the structures in the porta hepatis are arranged in this particular way. That means the most posterior structure would be portal vein, then the hepatic artery, then the hepatic ducts. So this is a relation of porta hepatis, relation of structures in the porta hepatis. Now, what are the peritoneal relations of the liver? We know that the liver is a structure which is almost covered by the peritoneum, almost, but not fully. There are some areas where the liver is not covered by peritoneum. We have seen peritoneal reflection. So we have understood that how the peritoneum is going to cover the liver. If you've not understood, please go back and see the slides, videos. You can come to know how the peritoneum is, formed, how the peritoneum is covering the organs, and so on. Yeah, I'll be uploading a video today at around 7 or 8. That times between 7 and 8, you can just view that video on peritoneum. It's a revised video, so you may please see that for a better understanding. Okay, let's come to the point. Most of the liver is covered by peritoneum, as I said before. You can see here this hazy color that you can see here is the area which is covered by the peritoneum. But this area where you can see dark brown, that area, the area of the liver, are not covered by peritoneum. The areas that are not covered by peritoneum are as follows. So there are few areas that we are going to see. These areas, remember, these are not covered by peritoneum. They are a triangular area which is called a bare area, which is seen on the posterior surface of the right lobe, limited by the upper and lower layers of coronary ligament. So this ligament here is called falciform ligament. Falciform ligament, as it moves upwards, it divides into two layers, right and the left layer. The falciform ligament forms two layers, right and left layer. Right layer attaches the liver to the diaphragm and it moves to the right, as we can see here. The left layer, you should imagine the anatomical position. Okay, when I say right and left, the left layer of the falciform ligament that goes attaching liver to the diaphragm and it goes to the left. That's what you can see here in this picture. This is the right layer or the anterior layer of the ligament that is attaching to the liver. This is the anterior layer. On the right layer you can see. This is the left layer, or here again it's anterior layer. Now when we see this, of course I said that there is an anterior layer, so there should be a posterior layer as well. What happens here is the anterior layer goes, we will first see the right side, the anterior layer that goes to the right and it reaches up to this point, right? Now what does that mean? Here we can see that the liver, the peritoneum that is covering the liver, that is reflected onto the diaphragm. That's what you're seeing here, right? But there's a particular area of that is behind this area. In that area you can see that the liver is directly in contact with the diaphragm. That is why peritoneum is not able to go into the deeper aspect, because there the liver and the diaphragm are very close with each other, so it does not go there. That is why the peritoneum is reflected onto the diaphragm, right? So because of the close attachment of the liver and the diaphragm beyond this point, the peritoneum that reflects from the liver to the diaphragm. That is what is happening. So this area is the area where the liver is closely attached to the diaphragm. That is why peritoneum is not able to cover that area. Let's come back to this ligament. This is the anterior layer that goes up to the right. That can be seen here. This one. And this ligament is called coronary ligament. Coronary ligament. So coronary ligament is reaching in this area. So this can be called as upper layer of coronary ligament, anterior layer of coronary ligament, and so on. At the same time, posteriorly, again, the peritoneum that is reflected onto the diaphragm from this area. And this is called the inferior layer or the posterior layer of coronary ligament. So the bare area, what we are talking about is in between the anterior layer and the posterior layer of coronary ligament. Or you can say upper and lower layers of coronary ligament. Not only that, when we look at the coronary ligament moves to the right. And here it forms a triangular shaped area here. That is because of the attachment of the ligament, and it forms a triangular area in this area. Since it forms a triangular area, bare area on the liver, this ligament is also changed the name as triangular ligament. So you can say that the anterior coronary ligament at the right end, this is called triangular ligament, right triangular ligament. Okay, this one. So we can say that the anterior coronary ligament continues as the right triangular ligament. The inferior layer or the posterior layer of the coronary ligament continues as the right triangular ligament. So the bare area is in between anterior, posterior layer of coronary ligament, and also in between the right triangular ligament. Now, other areas. So this is the largest area that we have seen here, the bare area, and the groove for the inferior vena cava. Now look at this here. Now, because the inferior vena cava and the liver, they are very close with each other, the peritoneum is not able to invade the area between inferior vena cava and the liver. So the peritoneum is just covering the inferior vena cava and moves. But here you can see here this area, right? It is not covering the inferior vena cava as such. It is reaching the lower aspect of inferior vena cava and it is reflected to the caudate lobe. So this area is not covered by peritoneum. No, this area is not covered by peritoneum. This area in the sense the groove for the inferior vena cava. That means when we remove the inferior vena cava, you can expect a groove there, a depression there. That area is also not covered by the peritoneum. So this is on the posterior surface of the right lobe of the liver between the caudate lobe and the bare area. So this area is also not covered by peritoneum. Now again, a fossa for the gallbladder, which lies on the inferior surface of right lobe of right lobe to the right of quadrate lobe. Let's see that how it is. Now here we can see that the peritoneum is covering the quadrate lobe and it also covers the gallbladder. Now the gallbladder, anterior surface of the gallbladder, what you are seeing here is the posterior surface of the gallbladder, but anterior surface of the gallbladder, which is in close relation with the liver. It is in close relation with the liver. So you can see that the peritoneum is not going to cover the surface of the gallbladder, which is in contact with the liver. That means now the peritoneum is covering the gallbladder and going right. Now just imagine that you are just removing the gallbladder from there and you will expect a fossa there. There also the peritoneum is not covered. And exactly what is the location of it? It is located on the inferior surface, just right to the quadrate lobe. Now again, a coronary ligament having superior and inferior layer, which encloses the bare area, the same thing which we are talking about between the superior and inferior layer of coronary ligament. And another area is lesser omentum. Lesser omentum. Lesser omentum is, what is lesser omentum? Which is connecting the liver to the stomach. So there is an area of bare area of the liver where peritoneum is not covering this part of the liver, because it reaches up to the porta hepatis of the liver, then it is reflected. So this area is not covered by peritoneum. Again, from here, the lesser omentum, right? Lesser omentum posterior layer is reaching here up to the liver and it reflected to the stomach. So this area is again not covered by peritoneum. So that is regarding the next bare area. So let's see the anterior surface of the liver. This is how it looks. You see the stomach is related, right? The stomach is placed posterior to the liver. Liver is almost covering the stomach, and it also covers the right bend of the colon, right? It's a right colic flexure. It's almost covered by the liver, right? Yeah. The anterior surface of the liver is triangular in shape and slightly convex. So there's a convexity. This is related to the xiphoid process, and this is xiphoid process, and to the anterior abdominal wall. What we can see here is the anterior abdominal wall in the median plane, and to the diaphragm on each side. So it is related to the diaphragm on each side, because the diaphragm is the one which is going to cover the liver. Diaphragm is separating the thorax and the abdomen, so it is also going to be related to the liver on either side. Posterior surface, this area is a posterior surface. It is almost a triangular in shape. Again, if you look at the section, I said that there is a, if you draw a line here at the porta hepatis, you can see the difference between the posterior and the inferior surface. So posterior surface is almost triangular in shape, and the bare area is related to the diaphragm. So this area, as I already mentioned, this area is related to the diaphragm because the liver and the diaphragm are very close with each other in this area, and also to the right suprarenal gland. So suprarenal gland is also related into this area. This is the area for the right kidney. Right kidney is related here. Above the right kidney, there is a small gland called suprarenal gland. So from the kidney, the gland is projected in this way. So in other words, you can say that the suprarenal gland, the right suprarenal gland and the liver are very close with each other. They approximate each other. There is nothing in between them. They are very close with each other. So this area, the right suprarenal gland, near the lower end of groove for inferior vena cava. Yes, this is the lower end of the groove for the inferior vena cava. So that area we can see, we cannot see, but you have to assume that there is the suprarenal gland. The groove for inferior vena cava, yes, that is again another feature that can be seen on the posterior surface, and the caudate lobe. The caudate lobe is also present on the posterior surface. Another things are fissure for ligamentum venosum. This is the fissure for the ligamentum venosum. Now, in the fetus, the ductus venosus shunts a portion of left umbilical vein blood flow directly to the inferior vena cava. Now, what is the ligamentum venosum? Ligamentum venosum is actually a remnant of ductus venosus. Ductus venosus. And what is ductus venosus? I hope embryology has been taken, so you might be knowing this. You might have studied about the fetal circulation, the placental circulation, all those things. So you might have studied that. So ductus venosus is no longer persisting in the adult, but a remnant remains, and the remnant is called ligamentum venosum. Now, what is it exactly? So ductus venosus is a channel. It shunts a portion of left umbilical vein blood flow directly to the inferior vena cava. Now, we know that the blood from the mother is taken by the umbilical vein. Umbilical vein takes the oxygenated blood from the mother to the fetus, and it reaches the fetus. So the umbilical vein reaches the fetus carrying the blood. Now this vein has to reach into the inferior vena cava. It's the liver. It is not supposed to go to the liver because liver is not functional. Liver is functional, but it is not so functional as in the adult. So the blood, the majority of the blood that is supposed to go to the liver is being shunted, is being bypassed through ductus venosus, and ductus venosus connects the left umbilical vein to the inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava. So this is the umbilical vein that we can see here. So this is the ductus venosus. What it does is it is connecting the left umbilical vein to the inferior vena cava. This is the inferior vena cava. Formation of inferior vena cava can be seen here. The left umbilical vein connected to the inferior vena cava, shunting the blood. Right, the blood is supposed to go to the liver, this area, but that has been shunted by the ductus venosus that goes to the inferior vena cava. Then from the inferior vena cava, it reaches the heart. Then from the heart, it reaches different parts of the body. So it is a functional mechanism that happens during embryonic period. You can read on that. If you have doubts, you can ask me later. I think it's taken already in the embryology. Anyway, posterior surface of the left lobe is marked by esophageal impression. Also, there is an impression here in this area. That's called esophageal impression. The esophagus, right? The terminal part of the esophagus, which is going to open into the stomach. That area is related onto the posterior surface. So the esophagus is related here. Okay, esophagus.